What's good, ladies and gents? Welcome to the MKO Pugilism Boxing channel where we talk all things boxing. Remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, put it on all so that you can get notified as soon as we drop any new content on the channel. Without further ado, let's get into this one. So on the weekend, we had a few cards. This one, I'm talking about the main event of the Sky card that took place. Boxer Ben Shalom, and we had Richard Riakporhe versus Deion Jumah. Now, as this fight happened, when it opened up, it was pretty cagey. First couple of rounds, from what I observed, Richard Riakporhe wasn't doing too much really. He was very cagey, he was very patient, he was sort of boxing within himself, and there wasn't really much activity at all coming from Riakporhe. You had Jumah. He was doing his thing as the southpaw. He was being awkward. He was giving angles. He was landing a few punches here and there, but from when it came to Jumah, these punches, they weren't of any real significance. A lot of what he was landing, some of it's arms and gloves, and some of them looked like, as Jim Watt would say, arm punches or arm punches. They look like kind of arm punches. So he was doing his thing. He was being awkward. He was giving the angles, landing a few here and there. But really and truly, I suppose, just based on that act, the fact that he's doing something, you could say, right, he might be taking the rounds, because there was so little from Riakporhe. That was the first two, I would say, were pretty much like that. You had Jumah doing his thing, his southpaw thing, creating a few angles, landing a few shots here and there. And then you had Riakporhe that was just there, quite upright, but not doing much, not throwing shots at all. The third round, that's when Riakporhe sort of started coming forward. He started moving forward, started following Jumah a little bit more. Jumah, however, for his part, he did land a few significant counters. He went to the body quite well. He looked, I'd say, especially in the third, Jumah looked to really sort of come into his own a little bit. He looked quite comfortable when it came to the third. And although the rounds were uneventful, first three, it looked like, at least from the outside, and I'm not sure how the judges had it, but it looked like uneventful rounds. But Jumah was the man doing something. Riakporhe was there. He was just biding his time. He was in no hurry to do anything. And Jumah, for those first three, was sort of outboxing Riakporhe in spots at least, because there wasn't, as I say, there was hardly any shots coming from Riakporhe at all. The fourth was again similar round. It was again very quiet up until Riakporhe has his equalizer. He lands that great thunderous right hand, and he manages to put Jumah down, and that for me, that's what really changed the fight in his favor. And it's a good thing for Riakporhe that he did land that shot, because outside of that shot there really wasn't much coming from him. The pattern was, Jumah was doing most of the fighting. He was doing landing most of the punches, and Riakporhe was just taking his time. But when that thunderous right hand comes in, it really did equalize things. It made things a lot better for Riakporhe. That was significant. It was a heavy knockdown as well. It put Jumah on his back, and it was, as Teddy Atlas calls it, and many people call it, the great eraser. Because whatever points, if he was at a points deficit at that point, that knockdown took away, even if you want to give Jumah the first three, that takes away two of them. That takes away two of them rounds that he won at the very least. So yeah, good right hand by him. And I would say that right hand he landed kind of erased a lot of whatever good work Jumah did to that point. And but nonetheless, as shaken as Jumah was at the end of the fourth, he was fortunate in a way, because the knockdown happened with about 15 seconds to go of the fourth round. So he was looking good going up until that knockdown. That happens, but it was good for him that it happened with about 15 seconds, I think, to go. So the fifth round starts, and instead of getting on his bicycle and being cagey, Juma started it quite quickly. He started off the round with aggression. So Juma sort of found confidence from somewhere in the fifth round. He looked like he'd at least somewhat recovered. I don't know if he'd fully recovered. I doubt that very much, but it looked like he'd recovered at least a little bit. Starts around quickly. He mounted like a mini comeback. Through some decent body shots. That was a good thing I noticed from Juma during his fight. He threw some good shots to the body, good hooks to the body. They didn't seem to make much of an impact or much of a dent on Riakporhe, but it was good tactics by him. He came out, in spite of the knockdown round 4, he starts, very positively. Round 5 was a good, positive round for Juma. Riakporhe did land his fair share of the shots, but again, it was one of them where there just wasn't enough from him. There wasn't much, but he did land some significant solid shots, especially towards the end of the fifth round. But I'd say in that fifth, Juma made his presence known. He made it known that, look, I'm not coming here to lie down. May have been knocked down, but I'm coming back as if it never happened. And that's sort of how he boxed. Juma became a lot more aggressive in the sixth. He was and he stood, which I think was a very risky move of him, but he sort of stood right in front of Riakporhe in the sixth and was being quite aggressive with him, trying to stand in the pocket and have a little he still used a bit of his movement, but not as much. He was willing to sort of stand in the pocket with Riakporhe and trade and try and land big shots on him. So he must have had confidence from somewhere that he can somehow hurt Riakporhe, but which didn't end up happening. A bad thing I noticed from Juma in the sixth round is that he kind of abandoned the feints for the most part. So it was in the pocket, close quarters with Riakporhe, where Riakporhe could do significant damage. Fortunately for his sake, he didn't in that round. But he was doing that dangerous thing, being in the pocket, trying to throw hard shots on Riakporhe. But again, there was no feints and there wasn't hardly any head movement at all from Riakporhe. But luckily for Juma, in that round, Riakporhe didn't sort of stick it on him and didn't capitalize on what happened in early rounds. I think I got the impression from Riakporhe really that we're even in that sixth where you had Juma right in front of you, you could have done the damage. I get the sense that maybe he was just looking for one big shot. Maybe he was just trusting that, well, I've got the power to take this guy out and I don't need to rush anything. So maybe that was his mindset. And, I suppose maybe that's what it was. But he did have Juma there right in front of him, trying to be aggressive, trying to throw shots and take over the fight from center ring. There were good combinations and hand speed demonstrated by Juma in the seventh. Again, there was more aggression from him. He was coming forward. As I say, his problem was he didn't seem to have the dig on him to do much damage on Riakporhe at all. So Riakporhe was able to stand there, take his time, and basically take what Juma was getting. He didn't really take much damage at all. Juma, however, his part in the seventh, he looked pretty confident. He was going in and out very well, using in and out tactics, getting in, trying to land a combination, getting out, used his feet pretty well. You showed a good array of skills in the seventh round. You could argue maybe winning that seventh round on activity alone, much like some of the other rounds, a lot of the other rounds there. But then came the end of the fight, which happened in the eighth round. And it was an interesting one because watching that fight live, watching that punch live, it looked very innocuous. It was just Riakporhe again boxing within himself, just bent down at the knees a little bit and bang, in goes a lovely right hand by Riakporhe. And it was interesting because it just looked like an arm punch. It didn't look like a devastating punch. It didn't look like it had much power on it. But I guess such is the power of Riakporhe that it does. Even the shots that look like there's not much effort in them, look like there's not much sting or power in them, even those shots can put you away. And that's exactly what happened there. 25 seconds, first 25 seconds of the fight, Riakporhe again doing his little thing, bends down, bang, right hand from Riakporhe, it's all over. So yeah, Jumah, you could see once that punch landed, he was on his feet, he stumbled, and then it just kind of took him about a second, and then he just folded him in half. He just goes down to the canvas, on the knee, then on the belly, and he was never getting up from that. So yeah, big congratulations to Richard Riakporhe on the victory there. I'd say yeah, they're talking about world titles next. I think if he goes right up to the top guys, I think he could be in trouble. Unless he sort of steps it up. I think he's got to be a little bit more active, a little bit more sort of defensively sound. But I think he's at the age now, 31 years old, where he's at least got the power, got that raw ingredient of power that can get you out of jail, and that can be the great eraser and the great equalizer. So congratulations to him. And yeah, there's could be, you never know, could get on a domestic thing. Maybe a Lawrence Okoli fight, who knows? But best of luck to Richard Riakporhe, and let me know what you thought of the fight in the comment section below. And until next time, this is MKO Pugilism, over and out.